Hello and welcome to episode 1185 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, June 12th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Nice light slate here to kind of get the week going. No day games, which I generally prefer, but sometimes I don't prefer as much on Mondays because I'm just like, I don't want to be pushed for a roster decision. So I'm kind of glad to take the day and again set the week up and everything with all my work. So how about you? How you doing? I know you're fresh off a camping trip.
Yeah, I'm pretty sore. Like I'm like like chasing around a bunch of kids and stuff like that, and sleeping on an air mattress, which is just not beneficial when you're my size. So I'm pretty sore. It was a fun weekend, but glad to be kind of back and sleeping in my own bed and being able to take a shower. It was just pretty nice. So also reveling in the fact that we're seeing our buddy on top of the main event leaderboard.
Yes,
email came out this morning, Mike Kurland, leading the main event. It's super early and he knows it, but gotta enjoy it.
Yeah, you really do. Like, nobody's saying that he's, I tweeted him. I'm not trying to A, jinx him for one, but B, also say he's won anything. That's just cool, though. They send out a weekly email. I'm sorry. Like, we play this game to have fun and enjoy and, pound our chests a little bit sometimes. Obviously, winning it is what matters, right? You can collect all the week leader emails you want, but if you don't win it, it's not for anything. Still cool to see your name up there in the lights, right? Even if it's just for a week. So I say enjoy it. He knows to keep himself in check and not, get a big head about it. He's going to keep putting in the work all year. Everyone would, right? Like nobody's going to go, I've got this made. Because if you're playing in the main event, you've played in enough leagues to know how nothing is secure until the final out of the end of the season, guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you got to enjoy it. Like, for instance, I saw him jump back up into the first spot because he's been there. I think last week at one point he was up there too. And I saw it on Saturday while I was camping because I just had just enough Wi-Fi to like check my teams and stuff.
Your stats, yeah.
But I also saw that I jumped into the top 10 of the auction overall.
Let's go.
And took a decent sized lead over our good buddy Matt Davis in our league. And I was like, I'm screenshotting this shit because I was 7th overall, and I was like, maybe I'll get up to that point where I'm in the top spot here in the near future. And then, of course, by the time I got back yesterday, it already dropped down to 17th.
Of course. So, it can be that fickle, but that's why it's fun to kind of revel in it. And it's harmless, right? There's nothing.
I told him I would frame that. Like, I would frame that, put it up in my office. Like, cool. Obviously we all want to win the overall, like at the end of, season and stuff like that. But like,
but most of us aren't. Mountain for a week. Exactly.
Yeah.
The vast majority of us won't. That's just the simple fact of it. So you stand on the mountain top for a week, you enjoy it, even if it goes away tonight. And I'd be remiss. This is the perfect way to just get the mention locked and loaded of my friend Greg, our very own Bob Sacamano. He's in 3rd overall. So I think it's the perfect way to mention him in passing. He's killing it right now too. So Kurland got some competition there. You know what impresses me so much too, though, is these guys, and we see it every year with multiples in the top 25, top 30. And I'm even more impressed when both of their teams are like neck and neck, and they're not just the same team done twice. Like John Posma's teams are 11 points apart. That's insane. One of which is in my league, so that's sick. By the way, he has 16, 17, 21 in the top 25 there. And then number 46 and 63. Those are John Posma's 5 entries into the main event. Are you seeing why he's a Hall of Famer?
Yeah,
is it clear? Okay.
Yeah. He's not quite there in the main event that I think he's in with me. So it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
Maybe tougher competition. No, I'm just
maybe
actually I don't even know. I don't even know if he's actually in that league with me. That actually might be a different league. He's not. Okay, so
yeah, he's rolling. He's having a great
he's
set up
having a great year.
Michael
Mager's got 2 top 10
Back-to-backs.
teams right now. Like it's Shout out to Dalton Del Don, who has got a top 20 team in the main event. For me, I really want to see someone in the industry win it. Scott Jenstead came super close to doing it last year. I think for me, that's just a little bit of, industry validation that, there are some amazing players in the industry. I know Ian Khan's not doing industry stuff anymore.
They're doing well again, though.
Yeah, he's top 20 or top 25 in the main event right now. So just, get to see some industry folk up there.
I agree. All right, let's talk some news. Couple small bits of news, definitely for deep leaguers at most right now. And then we'll get into the pickups. Didn't really separate them deep and shallow. A lot of crossover this week. There seemed to be kind of a set pool of guys, and they were pretty viable in both formats. We'll have a few guys that were only deep league eligible or viable, and some that were more shallow available. And then we'll get into closer corner because we have 2 big ILs and 3 guys popping up. So we'll get into that. Let's start with Luke Voit. Scooped by the Mets to a minor league deal, obviously with Alonso out, and it's looking like it's going to be 4 to 6. So, could easily be upwards of 2 months. They had to get somebody. Luke Voit. I like Mark Vientos. I'm excited what this could do for his playing time. But you see Voit go into a minor league deal there. Are you interested at all in like an NL only situation or anything at all? Or do you pivot toward, say, Vientos, Escobar, the guys that are already on the team? What are you doing with the Mets and Alonso right now?
It's just kind of frustrating. I'd rather them not pick up Voit and let Vientos play full time. I don't know. I just think it becomes a muddled situation where they'll play matchups.
Well, it's only minor league. It's minor league deal right now. He's got to show something Voit does. These first 2 that we're going to talk about, they're 2 named players, but it's minor league deals here. So don't worry about them coming in and just immediately robbing Vientos' playing time. In his 74 plate appearances, with Milwaukee, Voit had a 54 WRC.
Yeah, he was awful.
With way too many strikeouts, not nearly enough walks. So he's going to have to show a little something before they're going to go to him. But you got to get some depth, right? And with Alonso going down, finding some power there, why not? It looks like it says he's expected to be sidelined 3 to 4 weeks. I was wrong on the 4 to 6. But it could be upwards of 6, right? We're always saying that we push it up a little bit just so we don't trick ourselves into getting too excited about those.
And we always worry about guys coming off of like hand, wrist, forearm injuries with their power returning. Yeah. Yep. So, I have Vientos in a few spots. I'm hoping to roll with him. Kind of waiting to see when lineups come out. Like, hey, where is he hitting? If he's, the problem is they just don't give him consistent playing time. And
I think this is his opportunity, though, right?
Yeah.
If he shows something here, he could grab hold of it. Because Vogelbach doesn't play very often. Escobar doesn't play very often. Those are the other 2 guys that you could see doing it on the roster right now. So I think this is a huge opportunity for Vientos. He has killer power. I'm in. I'm taking a look at him in 15s for sure. I might even stash him in some 12s if I was power starved, just in case he gets going. I don't think he's an immediate start there, Mark Vientos, but I do really like his upside for power if things start to click for him.
Absolutely. He's got prodigious power, so I'm hoping.
It's there.
I need power. Almost every single one of my leagues, the one thing I'm lacking is power.
And it can happen quickly, too. You get a guy who can hit 10 in like a short span, a month type span. That can be such a huge boost. And Vientos can do that. He obviously needs to get going to show it. Daniel Murphy, remember him? It's been a while. Signed to a minor league deal with the Angels. I feel like we haven't seen him in fantasy relevance for a bit. Again, minor league deal. I don't think you have to worry about him coming up taking anybody's job right now. Dreadful 2020 in the COVID time. 132 plate appearances of a 44 WRC plus. He was double that in 2019. That was his Colorado tenure, and then hasn't played the last 2 years. Any interest in keeping tabs on Daniel Murphy?
No, not really. If he gets really hot in AAA or something, it's also the PCL, where it's even if he gets hot, it could just be fraudulent. And where would he play? He's not good defensively. I guess he could play some first base. I don't know. I doubt. Didi Gregorius was also signed. That one's a little bit more interesting because he was murdering the Mexican leagues. And we know that Didi can play really good defensively. And there's an opening in Seattle if they want to move off of J.P. Crawford at some point. So like I would much prefer like in like the most extremely deep leagues, ever. Like, I guess I would prefer Gregorius, but I don't think you're picking up any of these guys. This is just kind of a wait and see. Like, hey, do they hit well enough in AAA to warrant maybe taking a gamble in a couple weeks?
Yeah, Voit, Gregorius, Murphy. One of them could pop. It wouldn't surprise me. All three could be an afterthought in a week. So
absolutely,
it's a slow news day. Let's just say. Last one, Dairon Blanco promoted to Kansas City, and I only included him again. A, slow news day. B, 47 steals already for the 30-year-old in AAA. But you did hear me right, 30 years old. That said, he's like a KC type player. They love this speedster slap hitter type. I mean, anything here if you need some speed? Would you turn to Dairon Blanco at all? He made a little debut last year, but yeah, 47 for 53 in the minors already in 208 plate appearances, almost a steal per game. He's played 49 games and he's hitting 347. Dairon Blanco, interested?
I've never heard of this guy. Like, I'm not going to be honest. Like, be honest. Like, never heard of him. Like, just I had 46 stolen bases in 2022. Like, I guess, but don't they have like a million of these kind of players? Like
yeah, he's hot hand right now though, right? He's crushing in AAA. Crushing. He's hitting well. He doesn't have much power. He has 3 homers, a 104 ISO for Dairon Blanco. It's a 416 BABIP that he's riding right now. But if he can put up, a mid 300s BABIP with that speed and get on base, there's some fantasy goodness. I mean, could he be this year's John Birdie? While I overhype the living hell out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like he is an outfielder.
I'm just saying that super short sample speed burst. That's all I'm saying with that. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be that kind of game changer. You can never really predict that guy, but Dairon Blanco has the skills to do it.
Maybe he's less like a birdie and more like an old school Rajai Davis, where he's a guy like that. Like he could probably steal 15, 20 bases off the bench type of guy. Like,
for sure. Yeah, he might not even be playing, but get those steals. But then it's hard. Can you give up the runs, ribbies? It really makes him like an AL only play at that point. Because even in 15s, it's really hard to give up the ancillary runs and ribbies just for the steals, guys. So Dairon Blanco, will keep an eye. He is in the lineup today. If he starts getting consistent playing time and running the way he is in AAA, I do think he'll put himself on the fantasy map. But right now, I'm not preemptively getting Dairon Blanco, except maybe AL only where I'm speed desperate. All right, let's get into the pickups. Let's start at the top. The man, the myth, the legend did nothing to bring down his prices at all. If you were hoping for like, oh man, I hope he kind of goes over and just flails at a bunch of shit so I can kind of sneak in on Elly De La Cruz cheap, he said that's a stupid idea. I'm not going to do that. 1118 OPS with a monstrous homer, a huge triple where he flashed his wheels, and 3 for 3 on the bases. 0 bargains to be had on Elly De La Cruz where available. He was not available in all mains because there were some where he was drafted and subsequently picked back up before he even debuted here. His high was 650. There were several over 500 and only one below 309. 258 was the lucky guy. Somebody named Mo. And interestingly enough, just because we just mentioned him, he cut John Birdie. So what'd you think of the Elly bids? I don't think you were in on it. Anything surprise you there with where they went in the main event?
I mean, I made bids, but I didn't come anywhere close. I think that my biggest bid I bid was like 250 something, and it wasn't even the backup bid in that league. And that was in my auction championship league. My main event had the 2 highest bid, or 2 of the 4 highest bids.
Oh wow!
In the main, so
which one's here?
It was, I think, the second highest bid, and then it was
overpaid Wimps, 592, 587. That's pretty efficient.
580.
The 650 was not efficient at 352. That's tough.
Yeah, so it was just crazy. I don't know that I've ever seen, like, I've seen $500 bids, and we saw on TGFBI someone bid $994.
Oh my god!
Clearly hadn't spent any money and then decided to spend all their money. I don't know who it was, but congratulations to them, I guess. I don't know. I love the skills, right? Like, this is, you made the O'Neal Cruz comp. I don't think that's a lazy comp based on his last name or anything like that.
No.
I think it's a perfect comp.
switch hitting. Like it might feel lazy because it's easy, but why complicate it, right?
Yeah.
It's the Elly De La Cruz profile that can switch hit in terms of just the explosive skills, but tons of swing and miss.
So I think one of the differences though is that Elly De La Cruz I think has to hit to stay up because they've got Encarnacion Strand in the minor leagues. This is a team that, you know, when O'Neal Cruz came up, the Pirates had nothing. Like they had no reason to send him back.
Oh yeah,
they still did. But like they had no real reason to send O'Neal Cruz down. The Reds have a lot of talent on this roster now, and still more talent in the minor leagues. And we know that Elly De La Cruz is going to strike out. He's already striking out at a 37% rate in spite of this amazing start. If he goes through a prolonged slump, they may send him back down. And now I'm not rooting for that, and I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I do think there is a lot more risk than these massive bids kind of indicate. So I was not willing to go anywhere close. I couldn't afford to go anywhere close. Like,
me neither. I mean, I need a dynamic hitter, but no.
Yeah, he went for 400 to 500 plus in each one of my leagues. I didn't come close. So, but I'm excited. He seems like he is so much fun to watch. I hope he's really, really good in spite of not getting him anywhere. Because I just think he's good for Cincinnati and good for baseball.
Exactly. And don't sleep on the park.
Yeah.
You know, that's huge too. By the way, Elly De La Cruz was drafted in my league. And okay, so this is an interesting trajectory here. Was drafted and then cut on 4/16 and then picked up on 4/9. So drafted and cut by who? Cut immediately 4/2. Picked back up the next week by a guy for $17. He held on for exactly a week to get Oswaldo Peraza. Then the same guy picked him back up and did it late May for $57 and held him to that point. So good on that person. Not the original drafter, by the way, but that's how Elly De La Cruz was not available.
Where is that guy in the standings?
That's exactly what I was looking up next, so you read my mind. Grab Some Pine is actually the person I'm chasing right now in 11th. They are at 35 offensive points, 28 pitching. So they probably, should be looking to splurge on a pitcher to go with this offense because they got a boon there with Elly. Mm-hmm. However, they're poor, 189. So
I mean, he joins all the other Elly De La Cruz owners who had to spend on him because they're all poor.
For sure.
The guy who got him in my league now has $35 left for the season. Like, and that's the hard part is making these kind of moves. Tough. It just hamstrings you rest of the way. Like, it's just, I don't know how, like the guy in my league who got him plans on addressing any other needs that come up rest of the way. So I don't know. I just think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just think it's such a bad way to manage your FAAB. I just don't know. I don't know that
it's really hard. It's really hard, and it's not. Generally speaking, when you go back and look at the numbers, it's not proven to really be efficient, right?
Yeah.
Now the person that got him in my league for 57, that's something that if they win the league, that's going to be a pivotal part of the story, probably. Yeah. Right? Like they can say, I bought him back and held him for a month before he got called up. And he helped elevate me. And by the way, that person actually won Andrew Abbott. We'll talk about him in a moment with a remarkably efficient bid. So they're trying to get their pitching. But let me catch you first. Don't stop passing me. Grab Some Pine. Don't run away from me like that.
Now the guy who got him in my league, I will say, he's got 56 pitching points and 26 hitting points. Like that may end up, like if he does go on an absolute tear, like that may end up winning him the league.
Absolutely.
So like I do kind of get why. I just still think it's just a really, because I mean, if he gets sent down next month, like
crazy.
You've just blown that entire
They
amount.
have $84 left.
$35 left.
$35. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, if they had $84 left, I'd be like, good on you.
Pretty good.
Yeah. 35 is that's rough.
That's really. I think there's 26 weeks. Which means I think we have 14 left. It's literally like $2 to $3 a week, or $1 to $3 a week. So yeah, that's tough. That's just so tough. Again, I don't know if there's been a comprehensive study, but I think with all the FAAB results building up, I wonder if somebody like Zach with the data he collects, or Jeff Zimmerman, has run an analysis to see like where your best bet is on bang for buck. You know, how, or just what is the hit rate on these guys that go, say, 200 plus? Because I think that's where we get really crazy. I think 150, you know, under 200, you can make 2 of those and you're not hamstringing yourself really at all. I think, you know, but putting one guy at 400 plus, that is really, really tough. You know, a guy I got, felt like he was the next best widely available hitter was Kerry Carpenter. And I got him for a very remarkably efficient 16 to 15 bid.
Nice.
He's returned for the Tigers. Big time power guy. Injuries have cleared the path for him to play. He's coming off the bench, or coming off the IL, smacking the ball. He's batting third or fifth. Obviously, it's not a great lineup, but I really like what Kerry Carpenter can do. I liked him as somebody to draft this year. The only reason he was gone was because he got hurt. Where are you at on Kerry Carpenter? Did you see him as a nice power hitter for the summer, and were you in on him anywhere?
I wasn't. I honestly just kind of missed it. I come back from camping. I did about as minimal fabbing as you can probably do, and that's probably a mistake because, like I said, I need power, and I could have gotten it for
you would have been a nice, and he wasn't terribly expensive. Yeah, that's what I really liked about Carpenter.
So I do like Carpenter. You know, he may platoon a little bit in Detroit, but there is power there. He hits in the middle of the order. It's a hard thing to get right now. I've got a weird thing with a lot of my teams where I'm doing really well in RBIs and runs and not well in power. Like, it's just so frustrating.
Oh, wow.
And so a guy like Kerry Carpenter is perfect for my builds right now.
Yeah.
Where like I could really use a guy like just the homers, like
even if they're just solos all day.
Like I need the Jack Sawinskis, the Kerry Carpenters, those guys that like, hey, even if it hurts me a little bit in average, it's gonna help.
It's worth it right now.
And I know there are other people who are kind of in a similar boat to me. So I think he's a guy you should be grabbing up off your wires because he's gonna play more often than he doesn't, and that's gonna come with, you know, potentially, you know, 15, 20 home runs rest of the way. So I'll take that.
Yeah. I desperately needed offense, and, you know, I don't think he's going to turn around my offense single-handedly, but I can use that sort of vibe that you're talking about there with the homers. You know, even if they are solos, that's fine. Give me the power. I need homers to get myself into the group where I can start to make moves in homers, you know. So maybe Kerry Carpenter could be that guy. I think he has some maybe potential 12 eligibility too, at least this week, because you're looking short-term with somebody like him anyway, Kerry Carpenter in Detroit, and they have all righties this week, and as a lefty who might platoon, getting a 7-day week, even though it's against Atlanta and at Minnesota, this dude has real power. He can take anybody yard. Like, I wouldn't even be blown away if he had like 2 homers against Minnesota, even though they're going Gray, Ryan, Varland, Lopez. Like, that's a hell of a group. But Carpenter's power definitely plays. He's going to go up against another guy here, Edouard Julien, who started the week on my cut list. I was ready to move on because he was in the minors. The Jorge Polanco situation flares up again. He heads back to the IL. Julien comes right back and now becomes a hot ticket for folks. And maybe he can help my offense. Not that we're only talking about my team here. But what do you think about Edouard Julien? He's had, is it 2 spells? This is his 2nd spell up to the majors. Gets on base. We talked about him, how we saw him at Fall League and everything, participating in the home run derby and taking walks, because that's it. That's the number one thing. But he does have 4 homers and a steal. Are you in at all on Edouard Julien?
This is actually his 3rd trip to the majors.
I thought it might be, and I didn't trust myself, is what I'm saying.
He went down for a little bit at the end of May, and then the injury allowed him to come back up. So I mean, they had him lead off both of his first 2 games.
That was my next point. Was like, they send this guy down, but whenever he plays with them, he's a leadoff guy. It's like, I know you get guys come back and something has to give. Do you need to keep Donovan Solano over him?
I don't think you do, but
so it's like, but anyway, he's here now. Polanco's out for a bit. You mentioned that he is leading off. I interrupted your point because that's the first thing I was thinking of. Was like, how do they keep sending down this leadoff hitter? But can he do enough fantasy, give up enough fantasy juice to be 15, maybe 12 viable Edouard Julien?
I think 15 for sure. Anybody who's leading off as well, but I think 12 probably too. I mean, the question is, how much is he going to strike out? We've seen him strike out at like a 35% clip. Now he walks a ton. That is his like calling card, is he gets on base. And this Minnesota Twins offense, though always apparently beat up, is pretty decent. So he could score a lot of runs. And so if you're looking for runs scored, or if you're in an on-base percentage league, like, he should be like a top-tier pickup. I don't know that he's got a ton of power necessarily that's going to get unlocked because he's so overly patient. I think he's going to miss some opportunities because he doesn't swing the bat enough. But I do think that there is some viability depending on exactly what you're looking for your team. So I think if you don't need runs, go ahead.
Yeah. You bring up the Ks, and it's fair because the K rate is high, but I wonder if that 14% swinging strike rate might be making us worry about them a little bit more than we should. He's never swung and missed like that in the minors. His highest at any stop is 9% in 2021. And if you look at it, he had a 22% that first trip up to the majors for Edouard Julien, and he's been at 10% over these last two. Does that give you a little bit more comfort about these strikeouts with Edouard Julien, that he is improving that swinging strike rate and getting it back toward his minor league levels?
Not necessarily, because Julian's issues aren't because he swings and misses. They're because he's too patient and he lets guys attack him in the zone more than he should. So I think he could still have a higher than we would expect strikeout rate based on the fact that he's going to get a lot of caught, strike or caught looking strikes. So I don't know. I mean, you'd almost rather see him become a little bit more aggressive, and swing a little bit more. He's a hard guy to project. He's just because there aren't very many players like him. But there's one guy that is a little bit like him that has turned out to be kind of a nothing prospect into a really good fantasy player when healthy, and that's Max Muncy. So I could see him taking a Max Muncy route because I think he does have Max Muncy-ish power if he does swing enough inside the zone to kind of get attacking there. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'd be great. I would obviously love to see that from Julien. Like I said, 4 homers, 5 in the minors too. So you're looking at an over 200 ISO this year from Julien. If we can get some pop, that's a quality team, some runs. I'm excited about what Julien could do there with the Twins. What about Tommy Pham finding a little rebirth here, playing a bunch? Wasn't a hot ticket. I mean, he's 35. We've kind of seen some down seasons from him recently, but down seasons that still have fantasy heat because of the power and speed. 6 homers, 6 steals, 246 average for Pham this year with a 122 WRC plus. He's good again. Are you picking Tommy Pham up?
Yeah, I picked him up. Strikeout rate down to 23.5%, which is what I want to see. We know he's got power. He's got speed. I mean, it really comes down to whether the Mets still play him or not. And that is kind of a question because I don't really understand what the Mets are doing.
I don't think they do.
They seem to be like committed to letting Mark Canha play. And I know Canha had like a pretty good week or couple weeks where he was kind of hot, but ultimately I think Pham is just a much better player overall. So I'd like to see them give him full run. If they do, then yeah, I think he could be like a really, really kind of post-hype kind of fantasy guy. But it all comes down to playing time and health. I mean,
health too, of course.
Pham struggles to stay healthy at times. So I don't know if maybe kind of the inconsistent playing time is a way of trying to keep him healthy. Which it could be, and in that regards, you go, okay, I understand it, but yeah, as long as he's on the field, especially in like your daily, lineups formats where you can kind of get him in and out when he's playing, when he's not. Like, I think he has a lot of value.
Yeah, I totally agree there with regards to Pham. Seems like he's going to sit against some righties, but maybe Alonso's absence helps that, along with the fact that he's been playing better of late. I definitely think Pham has viability. I could even see some 12 team if you can afford to kind of be okay with the light volume right now, because again, 6 homers, 6 steals, he's contributing in those key categories, but make sure you don't get too comfortable with him in a 12 if the playing time isn't there, because you will fall behind on the runs and ribbies. Probably another reason why this guy is more available than he should be, but I do think Luke Raley's playing time is starting to rise in Tampa Bay, and maybe he needs to be more rostered than he is. Not available much in deeper formats. This is definitely one of those shallower format guys who's starting to get picked up more and more. Are you on the Luke Raley train? Dude has 11 homers and 7 steals.
I mean, I guess I don't know.
33% at Yahoo. That seems light for 11 and 7.
I mean, he's always going to kind of platoon. He's not going to hit against lefties. He strikes out at 30% rate. Like, when are they going to call up Kyle Manzardo? Like, it just kind of
why would you if Raley's doing this though? Wait. You can't ask him to replace a dude with a 159 WRC plus.
I mean, I can.
I mean, you can, but I think you'd be out of pocket here. I think we got ourselves another Brent Rooker with some freaking speed, dude. Like, I bypassed this guy 52 times, over the course of the early weeks when he was doing stuff because I'm like, whatever. But then I looked up and I'm like, damn, 11 and 7. Maybe I should, we talk about blindly trusting teams, and the Rays are definitely in that group. And yet we don't do it with players, with their hitters. We do it with their pitchers, but we don't do it with their hitters, even though they constantly succeed with these randos. No offense, Luke Raley, but you're a relative rando. And he is dominating.
I think like the opposite-handed Rooker is like the perfect kind of comp where it's like, yeah, he's hot right now, right now, but like, he's running with like a 320 BABIP against right-handed pitching and a 459 BABIP in the month of June. Like it's all going to come.
That's sustainable. That's
it's all going to come crashing down. So like, yeah, you just like with Rooker, you ride it for right now, and maybe you even try to sell it here in a week or so.
Especially Raley, because that speed. I think you could tantalize somebody into a trade there. If they just believe like, okay, he's going to be great when he plays, I'll worry about the volume piece. Like, for example, in the NFBC this week, you're not playing him on the weekend. It's 2 lefties and a righty, Weathers, Snell, and Musgrove. But then that's the only series with more than one righty for the next 2 weeks. He gets 4 at Oakland this week with Hogan Harris as the only lefty, 2 against Baltimore and 4 against KC, all at home next week with only Daniel Lynch slated right now, not even a guarantee. So I'm riding Raley in the short term in 12s too. I think I would go for it in 12s.
Yeah, sure. I have no problem with that. For me, like the moment that like final game of that Oakland series starts, like I am like setting out trade offers. I'm just like and trying to see if I can move him for anything. Because I do think this is going to come crashing back down to earth. Like I said, he's not going to play against lefties. So you kind of just gotta.
You know what I'd try in like a 12, maybe even a 15, it can get done. I don't know. It depends how the person that has this guy feels about him. But if you see some more Luke Raley juice in Oakland, and you need some pitching, I would try to buy Reed Detmers with him.
Sure.
Because I'm not worried about Reed Detmers really at all, and he has a 4.79 ERA, 151 WHIP. That might make some folks uneasy. I'm not. So I wonder if you can get a deal like that done. That might be shooting too high, but if somebody's a little bit disgusted with Detmers, and again, I get 15-team brain too much. In 12-team, Detmers might not even be being started all the time because whether you believe in him or not, he is putting up rough numbers right now. So I think people are probably at least
you might be able to find Reed Detmers on waiver wire. He got dropped in one of my OCs a couple weeks ago. I tried to get him and I couldn't.
See, I wouldn't cut him, but you might find him on some wires. He's only 29% rostered at Yahoo, so never mind. He's super available.
Yeah,
but I would trade for him though. In that situation, if I happen to be in one of the leagues of the 29%,
I mean, let's be honest.
Really for Detmers,
in the leagues where, what you can look it up right now since it's got the Yahoo open. Like, what is Raley even rostered in Yahoo? Like,
probably similar.
It's got to be less than
33.
Oh, okay.
33,
so,
even more than
so
Detmers.
Like, yeah.
So if you're in one of the leagues where both are rostered, I think you can make a trade there.
Yeah.
And I think Detmers has more staying power rest of the season, which we shouldn't even be focused so much on. I'm totally in. I love that the fantasy community at large is getting in on this pushback against rest of season stuff. Because why do we think that far? Especially with somebody like Luke Raley, right? Like, you're not thinking that far ahead with most of the guys you pick up. So we got to move away from those questions. Who do you want in the here and now? We don't know who develops into a rest of season type of guy. So anyway, that's more of a thing for trades, right? If you're trading for a star, you can do rest of season. But for pickups, you're not usually thinking that far out. Were you in on anything with in the wake of the Jordan Alvarez injury? Yainer Diaz, CORY, Julks, Mauricio Dubón. Anybody there for you? I want to talk about all three of them.
It was funny because I was listening to the RotoWire podcast last night with Scott Jensen and Jeff Erickson, and yeah, you weren't in that chat either. Right?
Definitely was not in that chat. Of course
not. Not like yelling at Scott for being a Stanford fan and you're a UT fan.
Hook 'em horns. Tough game last night. We got him tonight. Not doing that. You're right. I was not in there.
So, but they talked about this a little bit, and as soon as they mentioned CORY Julks, in my head I went, God, I have like picked up and dropped that guy like 5 or 6 times this year already. And then Scott said that exact same thing. So like, and I picked him up again this week. I also picked up Dubón in a few leagues this week, especially because on my teams where I've got a lot of injuries, Dubón plays everywhere, and so like you can just put him in every different spot. They randomly, like to move him up the lineup because they hate Kyle Tucker
with a Mott-like intensity, man.
Yeah, so I was in on both of those guys. The backup catcher dude, like not that.
Oh, I think you're sleeping. Let me put you on. All
right, you put me on.
Yainer Diaz. Okay, first off, he's a bat first catching prospect, so might as well be bat only. And here's the beauty. He can be that because they are running 3 catchers because they recognize the greatness of this bat. That's why they have Cesar Salazar on the team as well with Martin Maldonado. So I think he has a chance to take this DH spot and run with it a bit because the dude smashes. You should see what he did in the minors. Now, the sample sizes are light, mostly due to the fact that he's a catcher. So, it kind of cuts into some of that playing time. He doesn't strike out much. He doesn't take many walks either. But if you don't strike out, I'm fine with that. Power, batting average, I mean, he's like a baby Alvarez behind the dish, and now he can get some DH first base run. Or not first base because they got I guess they could flip him.
Abreu's already,
Well, they flipped him yesterday. I'm saying they flip him. He wouldn't take Abreu's playing time, but to get Abreu off his feet, which is what they did yesterday. But I think Diaz could be an absolute monster. And I think if you need power, you go Diaz. If you're looking for the kind of empty-ish batting average, you go Dubón. And if you're shooting for the moon, you need everything, you go Julks. That's how I break it down with those 3.
That's okay. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. Here's something I will say. I think this is a really interesting time to watch the Houston lineup because they've got 3 lefties this week. And we can
Diaz
see like
go off.
Yeah, we can see like if Diaz is playing only against lefties or mostly against lefties, then he's not as interesting because they're going to be a lot of weeks where he doesn't get very many lefties in the lineup. But if he is playing versus both, like, if they got, I think 6 games this week, if he starts, 5 games, then I'm really, really interested because then he's a guy you could put at your C2 as your catcher, and he racks up in a lot of plate appearances. So maybe that was a sneaky pickup that I kind of overlooked because I probably could have, replaced my C2 in a couple weeks.
Who is your C2 currently? In
my main, I think it's Nick Fortes. So probably
that's exactly who I cut.
Yeah.
That's exactly who I cut. And I liked Fortes, but again, and I mentioned this is where the Greg mention would have come if we didn't talk about the leaders in the main event. But I was talking to him about it, and I was like, because I'm blacked out at Houston games, I listen to a lot on the radio, like when I'm doing yard work and stuff. And this is just like an anecdote. It's not a reason to pick somebody up, but the broadcast goes bananas for Diaz. They think he is a legit badass hitter. That's where I got the baby Alvarez comp. They called him that, basically saying that he's that kind of complete hitter. And if he can just get some runway, we might be able to see him shine. And this was weeks ago too, when he was still playing very spottily. And now that he has a little runway, I'm intrigued. And I spent very little to get him, so I'm excited to see what Diaz can do. I went 9 unopposed. I could have gone even cheaper, but I thought he might have some heat in the market, but I was wrong. But anyway, let's go on to the pitchers, and let's start with Andrew Abbott. Now, I think that for the first time, I think maybe the first, with these prospects, one of them actually did not go crazy and push these prices through the roof. And at some point, prices have to come down a bit because.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I thought my league was more indicative of the broader spectrum. No, actually, he still went really high. Never mind. I'm sorry. I missed the boat there. I didn't look at the full list because he went 87 in my league, and I thought it was more in like the sub 200s. There were still plenty of 200 pluses and a lot of mid 100s. The 89 or the 87 in my league was actually the 7th lowest. So anyway, Abbott, we saw the walk issues. We saw the lack of swinging strikes in his first 2 starts. Where did that put you on Andrew Abbott this weekend for bids?
I put a whole $3 on him.
Damn, you really went crazy with it.
I mean, for me, it was just one of those weeks where like there was one real prize in Elly De La Cruz, and then a bunch of what I like to think of as booby prizes. And
there's some gems there. You can get some low dollar.
Yeah,
gems. Just don't overpay for them.
I just wasn't going to spend even double digits on virtually anybody else this week. So, and Abbott, chief among them. If I was going to spend more on a guy, it was going to be the next. Well, not the next.
Well,
guy
not the next guy, but the guy after that. Yeah,
the next guy we're going to seriously talk about. I have some real concerns about Abbott's command and pitching in Cincinnati. And I just think that, I made the kind of the comp of his teammates when we last talked about like he could be very Hunter Greenish, Nick Lodolo-ish, which means like, hey, there's some really, really good starts and they are sandwiched in between some really, really awful ones because he leaves stuff in the zone, and that is a park you cannot leave stuff in the zone in. So I was not overly enthused. I actually got offered Abbott in a league by our good friend Ian Kahn, and promptly turned down that offer and made a different deal. So I may end up regretting that deal, but actually so far it's turning out really well because Vinny P just went on the IL, and that's who I traded away. So I took Pablo Lopez for Vinny P as opposed to Abbott for Vinny P, and I feel a lot better about that.
Yeah, and like, with Abbott, again, I think people had to be influenced at least a little bit by the fact that he didn't go crazy the way so many of these other guys did. But again, the bids were still pretty high, so there were still his believers out there. I liked the 87 that the guy in my league paid, the guy who got Elly weeks ago. He needs pitching more. I think 87's a fair gamble if you need pitching. That doesn't cripple you if you cut Abbott even in like 2 weeks. Right, you'd be bummed. $87 is still a decent bit, but you're not. That's not a backbreaking move, even if you have to cut him quickly.
Yeah, it's just already so many walks so early. So, like, on top of the command being something we're a little sketchy with, the control has been really bad so far.
Exactly. Well, you could have just gotten the other Abbott because Abbott went twice in my league. CORY Abbott went way more often than he should. CORY Abbott was picked up a lot, folks. He went for $166 in my league. Damn near 2x what the actual guy went for. If you don't know, CORY Abbott is a guy who I think is still on the Nats. He's just a guy who is like an okay-ish type pitcher.
He got called back up from the minors on Wednesday, which makes this...
Oh, that makes it so much crazier.
Someone on, I think it was Vlad on Twitter, as all RIP CORY Abbott looking up his mentions on Twitter tonight.
Probably just like, what the hell is going on?
Why am I getting roasted right now?
Yeah, why are people crap talking me like crazy, dude? I think you pointed this out, that it was a lot of the same guy, right?
Yeah.
Based on the naming convention?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So,
it was, and unfortunately for him, he's in a lot of high-priced leagues too. But he, I think he was picked up around 35, 40 times, and I think the same guy picked him up like 20 or like 15 or 20 of those times. Like,
Yeah. I know that this is the guy I sat next to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sharp dude. He just made an error.
Huge mistake.
He just because This guy's on his shit. I sat next to him, Scott Wagner. Sorry, I'm putting him out there. But to gas him up, he was a really nice guy. I thought he drafted really well. He has a good team. This obviously stings. He was clearly committed to getting Abbott. It was the wrong one. The toughest part is he would have gotten a lot of Andrew Abbott, including, of course, in my league. As I said, he blew out the bid there. That's the really tough part, is he would have come home with a lot of Abbotts if he had gotten the right guy. So, I mean, we've seen this with like Logan Allen. I know in football, the Adrian Peterson thing has happened. Never just the same last name like this. So that's on Corey Abbott.
Yeah, and I mean, as a person who picked up Nick Allen instead of Logan Allen, I definitely
there you go.
I empathize. I also made a FAAB mistake this week.
What'd you do?
So I put in $137 bid on Tristan McKenzie, even though, because he was available in one of my leagues, even though I didn't really need pitching, and so my backup bid, my backup bid was Will Benson, because what I really needed was offense, but I was going to take McKenzie if I could get him for that price. And apparently I just left $137. So I got Will Benson for $137 in that league. Oh, no. Which was quite, and like I said, I just come back from camping. I was really tired. I was doing the bare amount possible. And clearly the bare amount possible meant not double checking my MEQ bidding. So, let's go Will Benson.
Go Will Benson. He did hit a walk-off. He could pop off for you. Might not earn that much money. But you did mention that if you were going to go higher on somebody, you might have been more inclined to go for this guy, AJ Smith-Shawver, out in Atlanta, who we did talk about last week because he was a deeper league pickup. But now we've seen a start. Actually kind of got some similar Abbott-esque results. I think that did kind of keep prices down too. I don't think he was terribly expensive, although let me check my work because I was wrong about Abbott. But
no, he was pretty good.
Yeah, there were two over 200. The rest were 144 or lower, and a lot of double-digit bids for AJ Smith-Shawver in the main event. What'd you think of Shawver? What do you see in here, and why would you prefer him over Abbott?
I just, the team's better, the part context is better.
Definitely.
The command and control is better too. He's 20 years old, so like obviously there's going to be bumps. He's very, very unproven even in the minor leagues, but I really trust the Braves and kind of what they do, and I do like the stuff overall. I don't think he has necessarily there were some comps to Strider, which I feel like are completely unfair. Strider has like two legit elite pitches, and Shawver does not have two elite pitches. But what he does have is, 3 or 4 pretty good pitches and really good command, which is something I wanted, I prefer to see over a guy like Abbott, who just, has got good stuff, but he can misplace it quite a bit. And in that park, you're going to pay for that. So
that's the tough part.
I preferred Shawver. I didn't end up with him either, because like I said, I wasn't spending very much on anybody this week after, blowing through a lot of my FAAB and knowing that other people were going to be blowing a lot of their FAAB this week. I was content to kind of do some backup bids and be okay that I didn't get them.
The Abbott and Smith-Shawver bids in my league were remarkably efficient. I mentioned the 87-85 on Abbott. 58-58. Take it to tiebreaker for AJ Smith-Shawver. How much better do you feel about a bid when it's efficient like that? Does it matter?
Oh, I know. I feel really, really good about it.
Does it matter more at the high level, like that 500 that I talked about with Elly? 5 like, so not only did you go crazy, but you went 592 and then somebody went 587. Does that make you feel like a lot better on the bigger bids, or do you like it more on the smaller bids? Because two people thinking the same thing on a low tier guy is kind of intriguing too. Which one makes you feel better about your win?
I mean, I think it's got to feel better on the bigger bid, because I don't know if there's like it's a really bad feeling when you make a huge bid and then the next bid was like $75. Like you go saying. 380 and the next bid's 70 something. You're like, oh, okay, now I've got to rationalize why spending that huge amount So I think, yeah, definitely on the bigger bids. But there is, I mean, I don't know. It is super frustrating too when like you get like you miss out on the guy you really wanted because you just didn't go that extra few bucks. Like that burns. Like,
yes.
oh, like you spent. I mean, on the big bids, I get it. But
those hurt more on the lower end.
It's like the $50 bid where you go, oh, I went $52 and somebody went $54.
And I love the guy, you know. But
I should have just gone.
I would have paid
4 more
60,
bucks. Yeah.
You know, you're even thinking like I would have paid this much, but I was trying to discipline myself, and it was that close. I see a lot of efficient bids with Elly though, so I think the people that ponied up can feel pretty good. There's a few that are outsized, but a lot of people, you know, right there with the second bid. So, you know, in the end, you spent the money, it doesn't matter, but it does feel good to kind of be like, okay, I had to spend that much. It's like when you leave that extra on the table in a blind bidding process, it can really feel like you made a huge error, even if you didn't, right? Like Elly might pan out for the guy who paid $650 to the $352 backup bid, but it does feel like, oh my God, I left $300 on the table. Did I make a huge mistake? Kyle Hendricks is back in the mix. He had a huge outing this weekend. Went up as high as 104, 92, but then 54, and then 28 and below everywhere else where he was available. Were you looking at Kyle Hendricks at all after a big outing for him?
I'm not falling for that again. I'm just not. Just not. Like I didn't get to watch him almost throw a no-hitter versus my Giants because I was camping. I listened to it on the radio because
baseball while camping. Baseball on the radio while camping sounds pretty dope.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. So I'm mostly box score scouting. I mean, it's nice to see the velocity is kind of back up to 87, so that's like a good thing. But we're also talking about it being back up to 87. And my Giants are just not hitting well. Like I don't buy this yet. Maybe if he goes out and throws another, you know, really good start, I'll be in, and maybe I do need to go back and rewatch it because for Hendricks, it's all about command. Like, is he able to get those strike calls on the corners that have made him so elite and get away with, you know, having the reduced velocity, or not reduced velocity for him, but just poor velocity for him.
Yeah.
So,
and is it too low? Like, has he reached the tipping point where he just can't be successful at such a low velocity? I will say the 9, man, talking about efficient bids, 9-9 went to tiebreaker again. I got no problem with that in my main event. I'm not even Kyle Hendricks.
He went for 92 with a backup bid of 5 in mine.
You were the 92? Okay, yeah, man, you got some spenders. You're at the high end consistently. But maybe that was
it was really four guys.
Stone. He wanted Gavin Stone the hell off his team. I don't blame him.
Yeah, you know, it was really like there were 4 guys that went for more than $41 in my league. It was just those 4 guys, you know, people wanted to get their guys and they got them. So
you know what always fascinates me is looking at the ads and cuts there. When a guy, when the same guy is cut for multiple teams that aren't rostered by the same person, right? Like when you can tell, like sometimes you can tell when they have the same naming convention, and maybe they are, but when it's clearly different names, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just wild that 2 people cut Mike Myers, 2 people cut Adrian Hauser. I don't know. I just find stupid things fascinating. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk some catchers. We did talk Yainer Diaz, but he fit with Houston here. So let's get back on the catcher talk real quick because Gary Sánchez is kind of being a thing right now. And we play mostly 2 catcher leagues, so we're always looking at whoever's going crazy. But I wonder if Gary Sánchez is playing himself into 1 catcher viability, currently raking, batting 4th and 5th in the San Diego lineup. Where are you at on Gary Sánchez?
Yeah, like I said last week, I was in on him. I mean, we know he's got power, and there's opportunity in San Diego because the rest of the catchers suck. So like he could play pretty regularly behind the dish. And I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but I think someone brought it up a while ago on Gary Sánchez when he was like toiling around the Giants organization. You know, he has another advantage to him that a lot of other catchers don't have that really play well with the new rules, which is a rocket arm. And with people stealing left and right, like maybe that is enough for him to stay behind that plate and play really regularly because they're trying to control the runners in San Diego. So I can't remember who, it might have been Jason said it. Someone said it on a podcast with me. So
that's a good call because he kind of got stuck in the wrong era of pitch framing taking away from Gary Sanchez's profile because he wasn't very good at that. Now we're seeing so much stealing, and his big arm can help him play. And yeah, he's just crushing the ball with them. Already 5 bombs, 155 WRC plus. Like you said, we did talk about him recently. I can't remember. Was it last week?
It was. I think it was last week. Yeah.
Okay. So he's been killing it, but now he's putting himself into shallow league and one catcher viability, and I think I'm on board with it. I picked him up in a bunch of DCs when he was slightly rumored to Colorado, like when we were thinking, oh, maybe he could go there. So I'm reaping the rewards for that. But I like seeing him pop off. It's fun when Gary Sanchez is killing it. I like Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, he's a fun player. Like I got him on a bunch of DCs because I thought he was going to end up in Boston. Like that's where
that would have been fun too. Yeah, just blasting off of the Green Monster. If I wouldn't have gotten Diaz, I had this guy ticketed as a pickup. Danny Jansen is about to start a rehab. Actually, maybe already has, but they showed him on the broadcast, running the bases, getting ready. Everything's getting on track for Danny Jansen. Are you on the Dan Jan train?
I am. I mean, I've got him rostered in a couple leagues, just sitting on my bench, waiting for him to come back. So
he did have a rehab game and crushed. 3 for 5 off rip already. So yeah, Dan Jan looking pretty good. What's the PT gonna be like?
That's the question. Is how long are they gonna keep letting Kirk kind of be the main guy? How long does Brandon Belt stay healthy? Brandon Belt kind of like tweaked a hamstring over the weekend, so he if Belt hits the IL like he normally does, then when Jansen comes back, like he could have full-time playing time as their DH. So
yeah, they could put Kirk at DH
or
back behind the dish and keep Tyler Heineman if Belt had to go to the IL or something. So that's really the question, is the playing time situation. But Kirk also isn't crushing, so he's not establishing himself as somebody that has to play every single day. So I think Dan Jan's a pickup. I can get him as deep as I think, or as shallow as like maybe a 12-team one catcher. I might be interested.
Yeah.
Although it's hard to pick him up before he comes back. But he actually has 2 rehab games, Saturday and Sunday. He hit a homer and then went 3 for 5. So he's hit the ground running. We'll see if he brings that to the majors with him or not. And then the last guy, I should have actually put this guy and then the catchers. I forgot to move him. But Bryan Woo, we're shifting back to pitcher real quick. Talked about him as a deep league pickup last week. He was a bit better this time out. I mean, probably couldn't be worse with the way things went for his opener. 6 runs in 2 innings, but he went 4 2/3, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, and a walk. Did that move the needle for you with a trip to the Angels there? Doing that was really, really strong at the Angels. And now Woo gets to face the White Sox this weekend. Are you interested in Bryan Woo in shallower formats at all?
Yeah, not really. I mean, he wasn't available in any of the leagues where I would have thought about him, which would have been 15-team mixed. I don't know. I just think there's going to be so much volatility with Woo. I think he's still really, really raw. If it wasn't for the injuries that Seattle's had, I don't think he'd be up. I think he'd be still.
He skipped AA. Skipped AAA. He's in AA. But man, he did really well there. He doesn't have a lot of innings either, so that's something to consider. Like pro innings are light for him. He got drafted in 2021. Only pitched, it looks like, about 50, 60 innings in 2022, and then 44 so far this year. So they might have to rein him in from that perspective. But he's also 23, so that's why skipping AAA I don't think is as bad as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I think he's kind of intriguing. For the White Sox start this week, I would stream Woo as shallow as 12s at least.
It was the Angels ran out a pretty ugly lineup. I mean, Trout Ohtani was in there, but they let off with Mickey Moniak. Rendon was hitting 4th. Urshela and Neto were it's just
elite players.
Yeah. People keep asking me if Mike Trout is broken because he struck out 3 times and has been striking out quite a bit. I think he'll be fine. It's
been rough, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I understand it can be compelling to talk about one of the best players in the universe and what's wrong with them, but from a fantasy perspective, you're not going to do a damn thing about it. So it is kind of a waste.
Yeah, because you're not trading Mike Trout, right?
And you're not benching him.
No,
and sure shit, not cutting him. So it's like, because even at his bad is a 127 WRC plus with 14 homers. So
yeah,
you just got to ride it out.
Exactly.
You just got to ride it
for
out.
power. Yeah,
it sucks. He has been really rough, I think, since the beginning of May. But I don't mean to talk down or be nasty to people who ask about it or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's hard to do too much on it because there's nothing actionable. It's better to like spend time talking about guys you might pick up to help supplement what Trout is doing, because we know we're just going to ride it out with Trout. So let's get into the closer corner, because a lot of stuff's happening right now. Ryan Helsey goes to the IL today. Are you going to go get Gallegos, or are you going to try to spike somebody else because he's been so volatile himself? What are you doing with the Helsey injury?
I mean, everybody's been volatile, right? So like it's
true.
Like, I mean, at least on the Cardinals. So
do you think that Gallegos is going to be the primary guy there?
That'd be my guess. Like he's the proven track record guy. He's got really good stuff. Yeah, he does have volatility issues at times, but everybody does on that team at this point. I mean, they've got like one of the worst records in the National League.
It's stunning,
mind-boggling.
It's stunning how awful they are.
I know we say this every week. Like they're still only 8 games out.
I was just about to say that, dude.
Like,
because I don't want it to be thrown back in our faces that you talk shit about them, you buried them. The funny thing is shitty.
No, I've been saying all along, like I've been saying all along, if you want a long shot bet, it's the Cardinals to win the division. Like,
I completely agree.
The Brewers, who were in first, just got swept by the A's.
A's, bro.
And the Pirates lost the series to the A's. Like,
yeah. Give me the Reds. Give me the Reds to sneak up, or the Cardinals to just come all the way back. The Goliath comes back from the bottom. But as much as we clown them, I still respect their talent, and I do think Gallegos will be the guy. I mean, you're still talking about a 17% swing to strike rate, 19% strikeout minus walk. The ERA is elevated because of a 1.4 homer 9. And that's a problem. It has cost them some games too. But I think he's the automatic guy, and he's the number one guy we're going to talk about here. We got five guys to discuss, or 5 situations at least. So definitely go get him. Are you worried about Helsey to a degree that you would cut him at all? It's a forearm strain, slated for a couple weeks right now. Nothing definitive on the timetable. I feel like you have to hold, but what do you think on Helsey before we go to the next situation?
Yeah, I think you got to hold for right
just
now.
Too good when he pitches, right?
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, starting pitching's been rough this year, right? I mean, we've lost so many guys, but there's always somebody available, right? And there have been guys that you've picked up off of the waiver wire that are now top 30, top 40 starting pitchers, right? And that's just not going to happen. You're not going to find a top 5 to 10 closer off the waiver wire. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, you'll find guys who are usable as closers and will get you saves, but you're not going to find an elite guy like Ryan Helsey. And
you have to get lucky. Like, it has to come from somebody being like a season-ending injury on a good team, and then the guy emerges. But this trading guys in and out thing, you're unlikely to land on somebody that good.
Yeah.
But so if Helsey's fine, then this is temporary.
You got to hold him for at least a week or two and wait and see. Like, we should have more information.
Until they come out with something more definitive on the timetable, you got to hold Helsey.
Yeah.
Liam Hendricks, obviously you're super excited about him coming back and everything, but it's been a bit bumpy, and now he's hitting the IL with a flexor strain, or the symptoms similar to the flexor strain that he had last year. How do we feel here? Obviously, they're going to be careful with him. I mean, I don't know how much the cancer relates to everything else now, though. I don't want to speculate that they have to be extra careful with him, because I don't know. Maybe it's all baseball now, and then once he's past the cancer, it doesn't impact things, but I don't know. Bottom line is, he's back on the IL. We're back dipping into this White Sox bullpen, which, hey, they don't win for shit anyway, but there could be some saves to be had. Who are you going for there? Is it Kendall Graveman? Is it back on the Raley train? Is it Joe Kelly? Is it Bobby Thigpen? What are you doing?
I think it's Kendall Graveman. At least for now. I think if Graveman's already rostered in your league, which he was rostered in a lot of, main event leagues, I think Joe Kelly's the guy that I don't trust Raley at all.
I don't
at this point.
And that's me saying that. I've moved on.
I mean, I have never really been a Raley guy. I continue to not be a Raley guy. I think Kelly would be the one in deeper leagues that I would be speculating on in case Graveman turns back into a pumpkin, which we've seen happen before. So, but I think Graveman is the guy for right now, and he just has to continue to pitch well. He has pitched well, recently. So, yeah, I think Graveman, dude, and then Kelly is the backup.
Yep, I play that the same way. The 1.9 homer rate of Graveman, or excuse me, of Raley, you just can't trust it. And I know that the last outing, which was yesterday, in fact, Graveman did have another meltdown. That's why I would look at Kelly if Graveman's already rostered. So great call there. Mr. McGough, our boy Scott McGough, man, he was in the picture early. Remember, he had that big spike. The reason you called him Mr. McGough was we were seeing a big spike in draft champions, and I was like, dude, I'm going to be honest. I just don't know who this is.
Yeah, I didn't know he
like,
was, yeah.
What do you mean you don't know Mr. McGough? It's Scott McGough. That Arizona situation has been fluid. Castro's wobbling a little bit, so people are getting back in on McGough. 30% strikeout rate, 14% swinging strike rate, sub-3 ERA, .87 whip. What do you think of the 33-year-old McGough, who's back from overseas and pitching well?
He is not allowed a fly ball this month. He's got an 86% ground ball rate.
That's crazy.
He keeps doing that, then he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think Arizona has the best infield defense in baseball, or one of them. So
I can totally believe that
this year. So yeah, I mean, if he continues to keep the ball on the ground, yeah, go for it. But I do think this continues to be kind of a fluid situation where it switches hands over and over and over again until the Diamondbacks make a move at the deadline, which I could definitely see them doing because they are leading the division. So
damn right there. Isn't this like a pseudo Rays situation where yes, it changes hands and it's not consistent, but it is for a good team, so thus being in on it makes some sense, unlike the next two teams we're going to talk about?
And I mean, if Miguel Castro turns back into a pumpkin and Andrew Chafin turns back into just being Andrew Chafin of old, which is, a guy who's a reliable reliever, but not someone you want necessarily in the ninth, McGough could kind of stick as the closer. So I do think it is a limited window, though, because I do think at the end of July, the Diamondbacks are making a move because I expect them to continue to be in this mix.
I expect them to get relievers. If Mr. McGough is crushing, though, they might only get supplemental relievers as opposed to the man. But again, that counter doesn't suggest that you should do something different with him. So I don't say that to counter you.
The thing is,
go bid $100 instead of $12.
I agree, but I also think, I mean, here's the question: it's like they need pitching on both the relievers and the starters, but they also have a lot of assets. Like this is a rich system, that they can pull from, and so like if the Padres are out of it, isn't Josh Hader on the market?
Padres aren't going to give up. They're only 3 back of 3 under 500. They're not. They're just not going to give up.
You don't think so? All right.
No, I don't think they should. By the way, I think they're really good. I love the D-backs. I actually had them as a playoff pick, and obviously I respect the Dodgers being great. I would still put the Padres. I'd do an NL West ticket on them if I could. Yeah, I still think they have too much talent, but there will be close.
I hope you're wrong because I've got that ticket from back in March or whatever. Back in March of the Diamondbacks win the division. So
and hey, I want that to come through because again, I'm in on the baby snakes. I'm 100% with you there. You know who could be a fit for the D-backs here? A guy that we spent the offseason trading a whole bunch. Scott Barlow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a good spot for him to go if they want to get somebody?
Scott Barlow or Aroldis Chapman.
Or Chapman, because they do only have Chafin. They have Kyle Nelson too, but they only have 2 lefties, so they could certainly use one. And then if they put in
Alec Thomas for Scott Barlow.
Oh, that's too much.
Is it?
I think a premier center fielder.
I think so too, but they clearly don't love Alec Thomas, so.
Well, I mean, he's been superseded, but they do have outfield depth like crazy because, they got Dom Fletcher. They got the guys that are already in the majors. They got
they still got Christian Robinson, Drew Jones.
Christian Robinson's been dealing with some stuff, but if he could ever get on track. The interesting thing, though, on that trade, though, specifically with the Royals is do they really need another glove first / glove only outfielder? Isn't he just another Kyle Isbell type? Like, how many of those can you really put on the team?
I think he's better than Kyle. I
think both are really good.
Yeah.
Anytime you can be a true premier center fielder, you got juice in the league. So maybe I'm overestimating Thomas, but I do think the D-backs are going to be in on pitching, including relief pitching. So McGough is just a short term right now, and we'll see where it goes. The Chicago scene. We've talked about the Cubs scene regularly. I shouldn't say Chicago. We just talked about the White Sox. Now we go to the Cubs. we've been through so many guys. Fulmer, you and I were hot on. I think he has finally done. We stuck with him during that first lull. I don't think we're being rewarded there. Adbert Alzolay was a premier pickup this week in some deeper leagues. Are you in on Alzolay? I love the talent. If he could close, I think he could be a stud. You know, you talk about not finding a top 10 stud. If he keeps pitching the way he's been pitching so far this year, I know the Cubs aren't playing great, but I do think Alzolay could be a G. Are you in on him as their closer?
I dropped him 2 weeks ago, and I'm gonna regret it, but I had to because I had two, premier closers or
that's
two
the closer
two,
spec game.
Yeah, two established closers and AJ Puck coming back.
Yeah.
And I can't have four closers when I'm, I really need to rehab my ratios. I need the innings to do that.
Yep.
So I don't give up on wins and strikeouts and stuff. So it's a bummer. I really like Alzolay though. I mean, I spent $50-some on him earlier in the year because I felt like he was going to be the guy that took over this job. Because once it was clear that Fulmer was pretty much done. So I do like him. I don't know that it's just his job though.
No.
Think
I
other
definitely
guys are
don't
going
think
to
it is right
in.
now.
Yeah, but I think if you're looking for the guy who's going to lead the Cubs rest away in saves, it's probably Alzolay.
I'd put a good spec on him. Marco Eider Jr. is putting up some banana stats. Don't get me wrong. 39% K rate, 15% swinging strike, sub 1 whip, but he throws 92. He's a finesse 32-year-old. So it's really interesting that he's doing so well. Alzolay is your traditional reliever badass who could be a stud, and he's really tamed the walks dating back to last year, only 13 innings, but still, I think he could be a monster. So I like him quite a bit. And then, of course, another situation that we talked a lot about, but it is not appealing at all because they never win. Of course, it's Oakland. Trevor May back in the mix with 2 saves this week, so he's getting picked up. Is that your guy if you're dipping into this bullpen, or are you just avoiding it altogether?
Yeah, just avoid it. Who cares?
I agree. I think just avoid it.
I just think it's so the upside is so capped by Oakland's inability to win games, even though they did just sweep the Brewers and take a series from the Pirates.
But you already missed that. That's why he got 2 this week, right? You already missed that. They're probably not going to do it again.
Yeah, and I like Trevor May, as a person, he seems like a really good dude, and I wish him the best, but I just trust nothing in Oakland right now. Outside of JP Sears and Esra Ruiz, and I guess maybe Seth Brown, and I mean, there's just
that's
not
really
much.
it. Laureano's not doing it. I know you might have thought about him, but he's just not really putting.
Oh no! You remember I had Laureano not as
that's
a top 75 outfielder coming in the year.
Hey, he's not doing a whole lot. He's hitting 227, 5 homers, 7 steals, a little something there, but with that batting average, they got a few guys, but not much in the bullpen. And the bullpen is why they're so terrible. They're actually getting a few decent things with their rotation lately, but it can only take you so far when you blow every damn lead you get, and you barely get any leads to begin with. So that's going to wrap it up there. Closer Corner getting a little bit more active. Of course, it'll get upended in July once trades start too. So keep some of your powder dry there. If you're in a FAAB league and you are trying to spec for saves, that might be the best time, and just keep spending nickels and dimes on these guys, hoping to get lucky, because nothing big has really popped in the closers market yet. So anyway, Justin, I hope you have a great week. We'll be back talking on Friday.
Oh, actually, we'll be back on Thursday for our special episode.
That's right.
Special guest episode. So definitely.
Say who it is.
Nope. We'll have. You'll get to hear it on Thursday. It'll be fantastic.
A few days away, so we'll have 2 more episodes this week. So tune in for that, and I will talk to you then.
Take it easy.